We're talking about this around the holiday season, but we can't help that. Domestic violence, and sometimes we were talking about it earlier, it can get worse around this time just because alcohol and things like that are involved. Just what have you seen in the past?
Well, usually just obviously with the holidays, it's a pretty emotional time for a lot of people. Sometimes that's high emotion positively, and then also a lot of depression around the holidays as well, particularly when you're around family and friends, and you really start to see some conflict arise.
Right. You brought up a good point earlier. A lot of times people think, well, I'm just going to call the police. They're going to come and mediate this thing, and then everything's going to be fine. But that's not how it works.
Right, exactly. A lot of times either one party or sometimes both parties will call the police just thinking that the police are going to come up there and almost act as like a principal at a school.
Right.
And it really doesn't work that way. When they come out there, it's extremely serious, and it can be extremely dangerous for everybody involved. And more likely than not, somebody will probably end up being arrested.
Right. There's lots of nonprofits around town that try to help battered women and men the same way, try to help them out and get them a place to live, a safe place to live. Once you've called the police, what's your next move? Because you want to make sure that you kind of act quickly after an incident might occur.
Right. The biggest problem with domestic violence is no matter who the victim is, whether it be a lady or a man, is that afterwards they don't want to follow up because of obviously issues within their family or, you know, maybe issues related to their friends and other people putting pressure on them. But what someone really has to look at is, do they want to stay in that situation? If not, they need to really move forward with prosecuting that individual. A lot of times police and the prosecutors have a hard time moving these cases forward because the victims won't, you know, participate.
Well, like that, let's say, for instance, somebody's watching right now and they say, oh, I might have waited too long. It's never too late, is it? They can still seek help.
Right. They could seek help on a number of levels. One, just making a report of what may have happened or what might have been threatened towards them. And two, just looking at the different nonprofits that could, you know, maybe move them into a different environment. Or at the very minimum, if they're still with the individual, get some counseling.
Right. What do you do in terms of children? Let's say, you know, because I know you specialize in family court a lot of times. What if someone comes to you and they say, I don't know what's going to happen with my kids. That's why I'm really scared to say anything. Then what happens?
Well, obviously, a lot of times DSS and Child Services will get involved, or a guardian ad litem will be appointed as well. And they're going to be looking out for the children first and foremost. But in reality, if you continue to expose your children to domestic violence, even if you're the victim, you know, the court's not going to look highly upon that either. So you really got to look at for them first beyond anyone else, and then obviously protecting yourself as well.
Just trying to keep it safe during the holiday season. We want to make sure that you've got all of these different tips and tricks because you just never know what might happen. And then let's say it's not a husband and wife, but maybe, David, maybe it's an aunt or a cousin that comes over and then they do something over the holidays that it's just not okay. Is it the same procedures?
Well, it's just going to be depending, you know, criminal domestic violence usually is going to be that you're actually living with that individual as opposed to it just being a neighbor or someone else. It could be an assault and battery type of situation. But either way, you know, it's always going to be good to report because people don't report it and then they try to come back later and report it and still want to go forward, and it just makes the case a whole lot harder that way.
I can imagine. So the first thing that people should make sure that they do is just make sure that they seek help, because I can't imagine there's anything else that you can do. And just don't wait, even if it can definitely be scary. And you always have that closed door policy, right, David? Nobody has to know that they've been in your office.
Absolutely. You know, if they come and want to talk to you about it, you know, it's just going to stay between you and, you know, the person that visits with you.
Gotcha. Well, David Aylor, thank you so very much for being with us. We really do appreciate it. All right. Well, when we come back after the break, we're back in Marion Square with two of the town's top weathermen and more Low Country Live coming up after the break. Stay with us.